Good evening.
Good evening.
And awesome. Well, this is a happy day for me. I wonder if we all aren't here for much the same reason, out of a sense of gratitude. I don't think I need to introduce Dr. Hofmann at this point. It is with extreme gratitude that I welcome you, Dr. Hofmann. Having lived a childhood that was very normal, and with all of the dullness of it, I feel that I had gone through a sort of transformation. I think that all that you did was an enormous help. What we're going to do this evening is record the first hour in interview format, and it will be broadcast on New Horizons on KPFA as part of a series. I think there are some flyers, I don't know whether you have them or not. But we'll be doing a series with Terence McKenna on the invisible landscape, and Terence is a most fascinating being. Is he here, by the way? I know that it's not. They've been down in Santa Barbara for a conference there, and apparently didn't make it back up. I've heard some tapes that he did at Esalen, and I was wild about it. It really is extraordinary. And then the program with Dr. Hofmann, and then with Andrew Weil, which we recorded last month when he was passing through town. And we'll see how it goes. I have a feeling, as I do every time I begin a series like this, that the possibilities are unlimited. And always other people come to mind, and there seem to be loose ends that need to be tied up. So we may conceivably either do another block of programming or continue it in July. So if you're interested, just keep an eye open. Practical things. The restrooms are through this door to the back. We're in the process of doing more construction, which never seems to end. Eventually, the front will be in shape, and that'll be music, tapes and records, and a few books by people that we've done interviews with. But at any rate, the restrooms are back here. The one with the sink is to the right. The other one is just the toilet. So it's the way things are at the moment. And we'll take a break, I hope, after the interview portion, and then open it up for Dr. Hofmann to say whatever additional you'd like to say, and to receive questions from you. And thank you for coming. And we're going to sort of slip into the radio mode for an hour. And don't feel that you have to be hushed, because we'll let people know that you're all here. And we probably will use some of the questions in the latter part as part of the program. So thanks for coming. All right, in the back.
It happened on a May morning. I've forgotten the year, but I can still point to the exact spot where it occurred, on a forest path on Martinsburg above Baden, Switzerland. As I strolled through the freshly greened woods filled with birdsong and lit up by the morning sun, all at once, everything appeared in an uncommonly clear light. Was this something I had simply failed to notice before? Was I suddenly discovering the spring forest as it actually looked? It shone with the most beautiful radiance, speaking to the heart as though it wanted to encompass me in its majesty. I was filled with an indescribable sensation of joy, oneness, and blissful security. I have no idea how long I stood there spellbound. but I recall the anxious concern I felt as the radiance slowly dissolved and I hiked on. How could a vision that was so real and convincing, so directly and deeply felt, how could it end so soon? And how could I tell anyone about it, as my overwhelming joy compelled me to do, since I knew there were no words to describe what I had seen? It seemed strange that I, as a child, had seen something so marvelous, something that adults obviously did not perceive, for I'd never heard them mention it. While still a child, I experienced several more of these deeply euphoric moments on my rambles through the forest and meadow. It was these experiences that shaped the main outlines of my worldview and convinced me of the existence of a miraculous, powerful, unfathomable reality that was hidden from everyday sight.
Welcome to New Horizons. This is Will Nofke. The words you heard were those of Dr. Albert Hofmann, discoverer of LSD, research chemist, and I believe I'd like to say mystic. Dr. Hofmann, you've said that it's necessary to use the substance known as LSD to be well prepared. And it seems that your life itself prepared you for the discovery of this particular substance has been such a catalyst in so many lives. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the process of that discovery, what led to it.
It's my belief that I was really prepared for this work, for this experiment. As you may know, I was not searching for just to find a psychoactive compound. The rationale why I prepared this lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, was I had planned to get an analeptic compound with circulator stimulant activity. Stimulant for the heart and breathing. But then it turned out to be a psychic stimulant instead. We named such kind of discovery, it's not by chance, it was serendipity. I was looking for something, did not find what I was looking for, find other things. That's the definition of serendipity.
Seems to be the definition of life itself.
Yes, maybe. You know who coined this word?
No, I don't.
No. That was a famous writer, Walpole, in 1766, I believe. He had just read this fairy tale about the three princes of Serendip. Serendip is the ancient name for Ceylon. And in this tale, there was a story of the princes. He went out in an expedition, were searching for something he had planned to find, but then they did not find what they were looking for, but because they were open-minded and curious, they then find everything which were also useful. And after having read his story, he coined the word serendipity. Serendip is the name for Ceylon. Serendipity means looking for something and find other things.
Could you tell us a little bit about how that discovery took place, because it's quite unusual?
Yes, I prepared this compound the first time in 1938 with the intention to get an analeptic. I gave it, as is usual, It's normal way to do our pharmacological department. I am the chemist, and then it gets to the pharmacology. That is, compounds are tested in animals, of course, and in isolated organs, but they did not find anything. They did not just register some extraordinary activity of this compound, and the compound was discarded or put in the I don't know, on the shelf. English is not my mother tongue. Schweizerdeutsch normally, that's quite different. And there it was, and very strange, and think that it's something which has something to do here, because I was prepared for this. Quite unusually. 5 years later, I thought, well, I should just once more prepare this compound and make it available to our pharmacologists and ask them to do a broader, more extending testing, because just the feeling is could be more in this compound that they had found.
You sensed something was there.
Yes, something. That was something. And then just I prepared this compound. And when I was working that afternoon, it was in the, we have the anniversary this year. I'm happy that we can celebrate the birthday here, or the birth year here. On this 16 April of 43, and I was just at the final stage of this synthesis. It consisted in the crystallization, had a dilution in methanol, and the compound comes out in a pure state. I suddenly felt quite strange, and I had a kind of daydream. I went out of the normal world in a kind of other reality. It was rather agreeable. I went home, lay down, and had a beautiful experience. Everything which I thought about, it was immediately before my eyes, just quite vivid in life. And these symptoms disappeared, and I thought something must have happened with me. This was unusual. And I thought maybe that I had used at that time, that afternoon, I had used a solvent closely related to chloroform, which was known to be an intoxicant. And I thought maybe that this chloroform has caused this kind of inebriation, and I had reacted in such a strange way. Next day I sniffed of this compound of dichloroethylene, and nothing happened. And I then maybe that some of this compound which I've been working for, this diethylamethylflysergic acid, could have been the cause. And I decided to go on the bottom of this problem and make a self-experiment with this compound. I'd be a cautious man, and I started with 1/4 of a milligram, and that's quite unusual. With the intention to increase gradually the amount. And then ingested this and in the laboratory, and soon after half an hour, then I thought, oh, that was a compound I had seen yesterday. And it came up very, very strong. It took me, and then I went home, asked my laboratory assistant to accompany me, and that was the famous bicycle ride. I had to bicycle about 6 kilometers, 4 miles home. And finally at home, I asked for the doctor. But then I got in a very very terrifying situation. All was so strange, became so strange, and I had then the feeling maybe that we have become insane now. And then, if you know, you may know, if you some feeling comes up, it is terribly enhanced. And because I did not know if ever I would come back of this other reality. That made me fearful, and if you go to in a state of fear, then it is enhanced, and that was very terrifying. And really, at the climax of the experience, about 3-4 hours after I had ingested it, I had the feeling to be out of my body and have left my body, and I thought, oh, now you may have died, and you are now in another world. And I had left my family, had made, I could also think about in this very strange other reality. I could think, and you have made a big discovery, and now you are just cannot even enjoy it and even use it, and you cannot ever tell to anybody. And left my family with 3 children, and so it was really a terrible situation. But then finally, I had the feeling that I would come back, and then a beautiful, a joyful, a blissful experience came up, and it was like a rebirth after death, a rebirth. And then I enjoyed this, all this stimulated fantasy, this play of colors, and this stimulated feeling of life coming again, and I was really happy, and happiness which I could not experience before. And finally, I felt sleep, and the next morning I was really a kind of changed human being. I had the feeling that I had been died and reborn, and it was the beginning of my thinking about what is really reality, because I had left our everyday reality, had been in another reality, and that was beginning of an insight in our world which I never would have had without this experience.
It's amazing. In all spiritual traditions, it seems that there is that die before ye die, that dying process and the rebirth. And it seems that LSD is that sort of catalyst that can take one through that trip, that journey from this reality to another reality, and with proper guidance, you can go through carefully and consciously. And I think one of the things that led you to call your book LSD, My Problem Child, is the fact that you did not envision at that time that it would ever be used as a recreational drug, as an inebriant.
I never would have believed. I never. Really. This experience was so overwhelming and so deep that I thought it would be always used just for a kind of, to produce, to provoke a kind of religious experience, not just for pleasure. And I immediately realized this compound, this agent must be used with cautiously, and with awe and with respect, otherwise it could have produce dangerous effect, could have dangerous effect. That I realized immediately. And therefore and that was, I think I was right to think about this. Then in the 60s, then it became my problem child. The first 10, 15 years, it was used under controlled conditions in psychiatry, in neurology as a useful tool, and I myself, after I had made this discovery, the first experiences in humans were made in the Sandoz laboratories with volunteers, and then we used lower doses, and then we make all kinds of tests, and in the laboratory conditions. But then I had the feeling this is not the right setting, this laboratory, and we cut out much more about this compound, and I made out of in private conditions with friends, with a German writer, with Ernst Jünger, and a friend of mine who was a pharmacologist. I had private session with music and with proper conditions, and had beautiful experiences. That happened already in '49. But that was I knew how to handle this substance, and until the end of '50s and up to '60s, then came these news from the United States that people jumped out of the window, that they were killed by standing for a running car, that they had made suicide, and all these things come, and then it became a problem child. And of course, what appeared in the newspapers and in the magazines and in the mass media was mainly the negative aspects. And also in the management of our company was, of course, not very happy about this development. We had in the first years we had distributed without any charge this LSD as an investigational drug. I have the affiche, the accompanying letter, which we gave to every batch here in detail, with the main properties of the compound, with possible indications, and with the warnings. And as I said, all was okay. And then came this situation from overseas. In Europe, we had no such problem. We had no such accidents. And yes, that then became a problem child.
Was there broad-scale lay usage in Europe, though?
No, not so. In any case, we had no accidents. People who used it in an appropriate way.
Well, certainly in the United States, there were a number of people that were trying to serve as guides and give
yes.
It was necessary to have a safe trip.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think now we never hear about any accident with LSD. I think people who use it now, know how to use it in the right way.
Well, I wonder if that is the case, because I hear a great deal about high school children using LSD, and it's purely as a recreational drug, and it seems to have no transformative quality at all, which is very peculiar.
Yes, so the expectation and the preparation is very, very important, I think. Very important. You may know about the story about tobacco. Tobacco was a sacred drug for the Indians, and it induced probably religious feelings. And there came a white man and and made a profanation. And now tobacco is just recreational drug. It is a very strange thing. It is very, very important. That has been also find out in the drug scene at Leary also, and all these high priests of LSD use, that the set and setting are very, very important, and the guide is very important, the surrounding is important. That was I also had soon experienced after the first tests and the laboratory conditions. I thought that this cannot give it what it can if it is taken under quite other expectations. The laboratory had just to make all these Rorschach tests, all these rational tests. This disturbing, and it's just disturbing. And then that the patient could come out of his encapsulated ego, get out of this problem, that he can find better contact with his doctor, with his psychiatrist, and then the enhanced suggestibility can be deeper influenced. And the third effect, which was important as a tool, as an adjunct in psychoanalysis, was that under these conditions, repressed or forgotten experiences come out from the subconscious and become conscious again. And that is just what is attained in psychoanalysis, that you become conscious of traumatic experiences which had been repressed and forgotten. As soon as you are conscious, you can work in it, you can then work out. LSD was not intended to be a medicament. It was intended to be an adjunct, a help, an aid in psychoanalysis. But the healing process must come by the spirit of the psychiatrist. This is the spiritual thing. It's just an adjunct. It helps. It opens the personality, and it loosens the IU barrier. That is very important. It's a subject-object barrier, which gives you the feeling of openness and the feeling of unity with universe, with your fellow man or fellow woman.
It's an experience I find very difficult to forget.
I mean, these effects can be helpful also without psychoanalysis and without psychotherapy, but that was the medical indication. That was the reason why Sandoz gave it out and distributed it all over the world for testing for this application.
It's interesting, you say that it opens you and shows you this unity, and that in this case, the analyst is very important to see you through. And yet that would imply that it opened you and made you very susceptible to any sort of input from another person. And I haven't really experienced that anyone has used it in a negative way, has put negative input in that open space. And I think that's somewhat unique. At least in my experience, that has not happened. I haven't heard of any brainwashing taking place or suggestion being made in a negative way. That somehow the guide is on the same wavelength. That they also see that unity, and they're going hand in hand through something. I don't think a person that hasn't experienced it could be a guide. Am I correct?
Yes, I think the personality of the guide is of major importance. And in general, the psychiatrist should be some kind of guide for his patient. If it's a bad psychiatrist, it could even disturb, of course, the whole good influence could be interrupted if the the wrong questions. If some kind of questionnaire would be done by the psychiatrist. And maybe that in the beginning some psychiatrists did not use it in the right way, but finally, on the whole, there are very favorable reports for such kind of application. And many psychiatrists used it in this way and had very good results.
Do you know if those psychiatrists had ingested LSD?
Yes, and it was also even suggested here that the psychiatrist should use it and to get insight in the world of his patient. That was suggested.
I would see no
here,
other way.
It
is inconceivable to me that an intellectual process, a learning process, could take place to enable someone to be a guide. They would have had to have experienced that same cosmic sense.
Yes, but that was already suggested here.
Uh-huh.
It enables the psychiatrist to enter in the world of his patient, to share this world.
I'm aware of the fact that when LSD was withdrawn from the marketplace, from availability for any professional use, that any number of substitutes were attempted to be found. All sorts of body therapies, psychoanalysis, all of the traditional things were retried somehow. Other substances that were not on the blacklist were tried. And I don't know of any that have succeeded successfully. They all seem to have greater negative aspects than LSD does used under proper circumstances.
I think so. I would be with the exception of psilocybin or the mushroom constituent.
Now there you have a situation where you have an organic substance, first of all.
But LSD is nearly an organic. It's just that's quite a story about. LSD belonged to the sacred drugs of Mexico, and because of its constitution. 15 years after the discovery of LSD, I investigated the Ololeucme seeds. That is a very ancient sacred drug of the Indian Zapotec, mixed and so on. And what did I find there? I found the lysergic acid amide, lysergic acid hydroxyethylamide. Even you're not a chemist, you see it's the same. Lysergic acid diethylamide, lysergic acid amide. Nearly the same components are the active principles of Ololeucme. That means that LSD is nothing else than a small chemical modification of a sacred drug of Mexico. And therefore I was right when I had the feeling that was a drug, a sacramental drug, at the very beginning. That was confirmed then even by its chemical constitution, by its chemical structure. Nobody did believe it. When I found this in these morning glory seeds, I reported the first time in '60 in Australia at the International Conference on Natural Products. All my colleagues, you have worked with, we have in your laboratory all kinds of lysergic derivatives. You have mingled something, you have mixed something, and that's impossible because it is a kind of natural law that complicated specific compounds you find they are characteristic for some special families, and there exists a kind of chemotaxonomy. You can say if a compound, such and such compound is contained in this plant and found in another plant, they are related botanically, belong together. And what was quite unusual, LSD is a derivative of a fungus, of the ergot fungus. And Ololeucme is that Alconolaceae plant. It is a morning glory family, a flowering plant. It is quite on a different section of the plant kingdom, which never was found. That's an absolute exception in chemotaxonomy, that you find the same structures in a lower fungus and in a higher plant. therefore did not believe it. And that is a great exception. It's always in the professional field, in the botanical books of it, it's a great exception that you find just these compounds in two such different fields of the plant kingdom. And really, when I found these compounds, I did not believe myself. 3 times I repeated the experiment before I published it. And then, but it finally was confirmed by, now it is accepted, of course.
It's as though
But it's very strange.
to be found and
I had these compounds when I isolated the molecule all day on my shelf. Because I had, after the discovery of LSD, I had made many, maybe 100 modifications of LSD. And among them were also this amide and the hydroxyamide. The compounds I found in Ololuke were all there on my shelf. Also a coincidence.
Dr. Hofmann, do you believe that there has developed any sort of ritual around LSD, that it had a chance for a ritual such as that around peyote or mescaline? Has any, even mini culture, developed such a process?
I think the people around Timothy Leary have developed some kind of, I don't know, kind of ceremony in his church. I was founding a church. What was the name of LSD? League of Spiritual Discovery. League of Spiritual Discovery, LSD. That was his church, he founded. And he tried by this way to get LSD free. He said he referred to the well-known use of the peyote at the Native American church. And he says in the Constitution, the freedom of religion is granted. And therefore he found it. He said we have a new religious organization, the League of Spiritual Discovery, but it could not go through. I don't know exactly how it happened. In any case, he did not succeed with his argument. He did not believe him.
Well, perhaps it was by reason of what he was demonstrating his intent to be.
Yes.
You mentioned peyote and mescaline. The greatest difference, perhaps, is that LSD milligram per milligram is what, 5 to 10,000 stronger.
Yeah. It is.
So that a tiny,
yes, you need half a gram of mescaline, and you need maybe 0.1 to 0.05 milligram only. I mean, it's about 10,000 more active by weight.
Wouldn't
The
that make it
mescaline.
much more difficult to gauge how much you should take and to
Yes.
incorporate it into a ritual?
Yes, that is very difficult. The dosage, and the dosage is important. And that is one thing which may have been also the reason of all what caused these bad accidents, that people did not have the right dosage and they did not get the right material. It is really, you need to be a professional to not just produce LSD. If you have lysergic acid that was available at the beginning of the 60s, now it is also the same restrictions as LSD itself. But when you had pure lysergic acid, it was not too difficult to prepare under normal conditions LSD. But then you prepare it to in a stable form. That is really, you need to be an expert. It is very easily destroyed by the oxygen of air, and is easily destroyed by light. and you have to protect it. And we had standards who prepared ampoules with 100 micrograms. And these ampoules was absolutely 100% free of oxygen, filled with nitrogen, and then it is stable. But in this black market LSD, really you put it on a paper, plot paper, and then you have a big surface access to oxygen, and it is very soon destroyed, and you have nothing, or you have degradation products. And therefore also I have analyzed quite a lot of black market LSD, and very rare, in very rare cases I found really the labeled content.
Is there any way to tell at all what you're getting?
What?
Is there any way to tell what you're getting on the black market?
It's very difficult.
To analyze it?
Yeah, I could analyze it in my laboratory, but it is difficult. Okay, my paper chromatogram can immediately see what it is. But I give an example of what happened once. In Basel, 2 young men came to the hospital with coma. One died, the other recovered, and they said they had taken LSD. And there was another sample of this, and I analyzed it, was pure strychnine. And such thing happened. And then it is said that people they died by having taken LSD. Before I wrote my book, I again tested the whole literature. One does not know the lethal dose of LSD. Not one person has ever died from LSD itself. That is a very strange situation, because the ratio between the active dose and the toxic dose is so large. It's not no as a compound. If you take, let us say, 10 times as much alcohol as you to get a really strong drunk, you get 10 times more, then you die. Or if you take 3 times as much of heroin as you needed for a good flash,
yes,
then you die. It is 1 to 3 about the relation. But we have not, we cannot say, we don't know, we know the active dose of LSD, but don't know the lethal dose. But you can care with the toxicity in animals. And then we have an interval of 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 10,000. In mice, for example, you need 18 milligram per kilogram of mouse to kill a mouse. I think it is the less toxic compound that exists. That is very, you have so many people who die from alcohol, all kinds of medicaments. And I think millions of people have taken LSD, and not one case where people died from LSD.
Do you see a time when LSD will be available again for use in medicine and psychiatry?
I hope so. I hope that it would be possible. I would not say that it absolutely would be free, but under controlled conditions it should become available. I mean that every psychiatrist could have access to LSD, and if somebody like to have an LSD experience, he should have the possibility under controlled condition, under medical supervision, to have such kind of experience. I think that would be the next step in our society. And I could also imagine that it could be available for, let us say, what we not have yet, meditation centers. That is under conditions where all these accidents cannot happen.
It seems as though in our society that it would have to come back through the scientific community and the medical community to gain a reputable status in order to be freed up to be used for transformation.
I think in these so-called primitive societies, there we have we had a model how to use this kind of compounds. There is a curandero, the priest doctor, who is responsible, who uses, who distributes it, who is a guide. And they know that the Indians know you must be prepared before you can use a Tionana cattle. You must be ceremonial clean by abstinence, by praying and fasting. And then the Tionana cattle, the sacred mushroom, will bring you near to God. Otherwise, he may kill you or make you insane. They know it. They have the experience of 2,000 years, and that would be a model. Could be a model for us. I think we should learn about these things. But we have in our society. We have not just the priest doctor of our society is the psychiatrist, but maybe it is our psychiatry is still very rational minded. I mean, it is the religious factors of, I mean, the deep religious background of the human mind is not respected as it should be. It is just an subject-object approach to the whole problem.
Well, it seems as though Jungian analysts are much more prone toward this, and also the emergence of the transpersonal.
Now, yes, this transpersonal psychology. That is, I hope that we are approaching another attitude to this kind of agents, which should not be named drug. I had this discussion with Aldous Huxley personally, and he said we should never speak of drug because bad connotations to the word drug. He said that are not drugs. We should never use this kind of drug for this kind of agents. He coined another Phanero teams was his suggestion. That means that plant products which influence our psyche, Phanero teams, because all these agents come from plants, are plant products. Also, LSD is a product of a fungus, Oleuc is a thing, and the mushrooms and mescaline is of a cactus, and he coins this word. And now we have many other designations for this kind of agents, hallucinogens, and then which the hallucinations are not the most important things of these kind of agents. Then we have psychedelics coined by Humphrey Osmond. It is a rather good word. And now we have entheogens, it's the last preposition, entheogens. That means bringing you nearer to God. Entheogens, theos is God, and bringing nearer to God. All kind of, but in any case, we should make a difference. And that would be also easier for the government if the government would see that it is just not a drug, because so many things which are attributed to bad things to LSD are not stem not from LSD. I could just tell you a story what happened in Basel, in my town where I live, or nearby. A very well-known young writer published in the Basel newspaper a report. He had been in Mexico, had attended a session with mescaline, was deeply impressed, came home and wrote an article and said, "It is very, very strange. I had such beautiful experience in Mexico, and in Mexico the drug produces such wonderful effect. And here, my friends die in the bathroom. And all his friends who died were died because he had taken heroin. And he said, the drug, we speak about the drug. And we should not speak, that does not exist. Alcohol exists, nicotine, heroin, LSD, but only single agent has specific properties, specific possibilities for application and specific dangers. But this kind of, I would say there's a group of sacred drugs. We can, wouldn't like to be too go too high with my expression, but I think it needs this.
Well, you used a term at the very beginning of another reality.
Yes.
And I think that's the quality that is common with all of these drugs.
Yep.
It does show you a different reality, and that makes me question whether the government would ever see the possibility of making these drugs available to find another reality.
And I think the generation which is now represent our government would not see it, but now younger people who have had experience with LSD and will grow up and becomes a leader of the country, maybe that changes, can change the situation. But yeah, the young generation become president and change the country. Why not? I must tell you a story about this president. I have had and still have many visitors coming to speak with me and see me. And once it happened when I was working at Sandoz many years ago. I used to be have rest at noon, closed office and so. And somebody knocked on the door, and finally I opened. There was a beautiful girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, and long dress, hippie, with a band. And how could you come in, and who are you? She said, I come from the United States. My name is Jane, and I came just to visit you. And I said, but how was it possible that you could go? We have 3 control posts in the gate, main gate, and then the gate of the laboratory. And with such unusual dressing. And she said, oh, I am an angel and I can pass everywhere. And then he said, I come to visit you. I come to visit you. You must help me to give LSD to our president, this was Johnson at that time. You must help me. I am the Jeanne d'Arc of our country. You need Jeanne d'Arc who saved the country. I am the Jeanne d'Arc of the United States. You must help me to give LSD to Johnson. I was not able to help her. Maybe we had succeeded. The whole policy of the United States would have been changed. I could not help this poor Jane. Sorry.
Well,
it was a so nice girl, and so she was so hopeful that I would be able to do this.
I think a lot of us have had those thoughts, but I think that it's important to remember what you said, that the preparation is so important, and that infliction of the substance on someone else is really not advisable and is not really going to be very beneficial for any purpose,
yes,
unless they're prepared for it and are guided through it.
Yeah.
So I think
Yes, I'm convinced, yeah.
I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about your conception of the realities.
Yes,
This reality
that
and the
is.
other.
I gave my lecture at Santa Barbara. Is titled "The Transmitter receiver concept of reality. After I had this experience with LSD, of course, I was quite concerned about what is reality, because until then I had believed just there is one reality, approved by everybody, our everyday reality. But this reality, no, the rest is just doesn't exist. But then I knew there exists another reality, and I was thinking about this problem, and with my the way scientists do. It's a rational way to get a rational explanation of this phenomenon. And of course, during my LSD experience, the exterior world had not changed. That was clear. Therefore, something inside must have changed. And that gave me the concept of reality to be the product of a transmitter and of a receiver. And the transmitter is the exterior world, the whole universe, and even including the whole material world, including our own body. And the receiver is our conscious making spiritual center, the inner spiritual room. And the antenna are our 5 sense organs. And let us speak about the optical picture of reality. Outside, what is outside is just matter and energy. Matter and energy, and no color, no sound, all this happens inside. What is outside we have, regarding the optical picture, we have electromagnetic waves, which are the universe is full of electromagnetic waves, the wavelengths of ultra-short Röntgen waves to up to meter-long radio waves. But all the same, all the electromagnetic waves, just another wavelengths, so or so. And from this enormous spectrum, we realize, our receiver can realize only a very small spectrum of 0.4 to 0.7 millimicrons. A very small section we are sensitive to and able to experience this as light. And within this small spectrum, we can receive the wavelengths of 0.4 as blue and 0.7 millimicron as red. And we say that is red, but that happens inside this transformation. We must realize that we have the screen inside. Everybody creates our reality. Everybody has a cosmogonic potency inside. Everybody is really a creator of a world of his own. That is the same as with acoustical world. What exists outside? Outside exists compression, dilatations of the air. You cannot play music if you in a vacuum. Doesn't exist. It's a movement. It's just a wave-like compression, dilatations of the air, and only a certain. There exists also a large spectrum of such kind of waves. But we have only about 20 to 20,000 vibrations per second we can perceive as sound. The rest does not exist, it is there, but it does not exist for us. And therefore, as you see, the whole, what we see, our beautiful, our colorful world does not exist outside. What exists outside is matter and energy and nothing else. Matter in all kind of forms, living forms or inorganic forms.
But you're not entirely saying that what transpires is that the inner horizons expand and we seem to perceive more. And it's just the gray sort of energy and matter out there, and that we're creating all of this within our
We
mind?
take just by the limitation of our sense organs.
Oh.
That makes it possible that we can, and the possibility to use certain stimuli from outside to transform them into a psychic experience. That is really absolutely, we cannot explain it. We have just to accept it. What we know from the exterior world has been disclosed by scientific research. Objectively, there exists an exterior world, but we can only disclose of it what we experience with our sense organ, or by scientific treatments. We can pick up radio waves and can transform them in waves which are in smaller waves in sound or in the optical field. Then we have a screen with sound which we can hear and with colors which we can see. But if our eye would be sensitive to radio waves, we could see to Europe from here. If our eye would be sensitive to ultra-short Röntgen waves, the object would seem transparent, and this transparent reality would be as reality as our everyday reality. And this showed that we experience under LSD is not an illusion, not delusion. We have opened our receiver. Our inner receiver is transformed, and then we see another reality, another aspect of reality, another aspect of the transcendental reality.
Nonetheless, real.
Yeah, yes, as real as the other.
I want to ask you something that I've wanted to ask you for a long time. Ever since that first trip. Being a communicator of sorts, and I sat down with a piece of paper and I was going to document the very first time that I took LSD, and I experienced something very similar to something you mentioned, that it was very difficult to write after a very short period. So they're very cryptic notes. But there was one experience that I've always wondered about. You mentioned somewhere in the book about the vision of the undulation of objects, the wavy quality. Well, my experience was that there was a vicuna throw that I had at that time, vicuna fir, and it was laying in a rocking chair, and the vicuna, was moving like a wheat field.
What is a vicuna?
Vicuna is a llama fir.
Yeah.
It's a very fine, gentle fur.
Yeah.
And it was moving in all directions. It was not just waving back and forth. It had a life of its own, but nothing else in the room was doing that. It was just suddenly this had that quality. And it's a sort of selective viewing. And I've wondered whether what I was seeing was a particular energy that inhabited that fur, as opposed to the wood of the rocker or the plants that were nearby, and that each had their own characteristics. I was picking up on this one thing. Do you have any explanation?
No.
No. So much for a long wait.
You mean why only these
one
just
thing
one thing?
Was in motion and seemed to have a different quality to ordinary.
But this experience that things become alive and are moving, that seems not so important. It gives us the experience that life is everywhere.
Yes.
But just it's not moving, but as everything which we experience is in some kind is true for the individual who is experiencing it, because we have never as a possibility than to get truth by our experience. But these distortions and even the hallucinations do not seem so important as important effects of LSD. I think the experience of just a deeper, all-embracing reality, that is what one can get out of what is important.
Yeah.
That is what.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
But also another experience that I did have was wearing glasses. I was on Mount Tamalpais at one time and had taken them off and was enjoying the sky and the water, and rolled over and looked at the earth, and without my glasses saw these minute little beings crawling through the grass. And
Yes.
it was as though I was creating my inability to see, and that this was the reality that, of course.
Yes. That is, our sense organs are enormously stimulated. That is one effect which is can be objectively demonstrated. Our touch sense is enormously stimulated, and the visual field is stimulated, and acoustical sense is stimulated. I had two of my friends who did not never hear music. Music did not mean anything to them. After having listened to music and LSD, it became really a new world was open to them. Because really all our senses, the receiver, even the antenna, are such in a high, enormous way stimulated and become much more sensitive than normally.
But what seems unique about this substance is that once you perceive that and become aware of it, it sharpens your senses.
Yes.
It sharpens everything that occurs during the imbibing of the substance.
Yes, yeah.
And you remember it, and you re-experience it without need for ingesting more.
Yes.
To a very large degree.
Yes.
I think there are probably always new discoveries. You perhaps would know better than
Yes.
Well, we're running out of that thing, that reality called time. I hope there's another reality where we can spend a good deal more time together in the near future. And again, I want to thank you. We've touched just so briefly on all that's included in your book, which is published in the United States by I feel, very enlightened publisher, J.P. Torture.
Yes, he is. I was his guest in the last days, and I know why he published this book.
Absolutely. The book is called LSD, My Problem Child. And I think that indeed, with the guidance that you offer through your book and through your very being, that this problem child can be the wonder child that you envisioned. And I think it's perhaps inevitable that that occur.
Thank you.
We will take. I understand there are a few of you that just arrived. That's great. Welcome to those. What I would like to do is give Dr. Hofmann an opportunity to say anything that he feels was left out. And if someone can turn the teapot on. Thank you. And that'll give him an opportunity to sort of round the corners. And then we'll welcome your questions, and I'm as eager as I'm sure he is to hear of your experiences and experience your questions. So, Dr. Hofmann, are there some things that you feel need to be said first, or?
First, I would thank you for the quotation of the sentences in my foreword. When I described the experience I had as a child, that touched me really, that you gave this as introduction of this session we have here.
I thought it was
Really,
so
thank you.
significant.
It was very, very nice. It was very fine. Because it's very important to know that LSD and other sacred drugs are just one possibility to enter this deeper into the spiritual world and to become conscious of a deeper, all-embracing reality. It's just a one way, as all the success said. There are also possibilities. It is a gratuitous grace, he said. We had use of it, had to make use of it. But in any case, it's one way. And I would not oppose to anybody and say you must take LSD if you try to get in a deeper understanding of our world and of the outer and inner world. There are way of meditation, as yoga techniques and many other things. But it is of course an important door, an important way to open the doors of perception, as all the Huxley said. And then also, I just speaking about Aldous Huxley, whom I met twice. He visited me the first time in Basel, and then I visited him. We were together in Sweden. He wrote me, I think it's also in my book, in one of his letters he wrote me, and that is important, I think. What we take in by visionary experience must be given out with love and intelligence. And I think it is not worthwhile only to have a beautiful experience and look at his legs or somewhere on the label and just doing nothing. That must find an expression, a realization in our daily life. It seems very important.
Dr. Hofmann, when I was thinking of this series and trying to verbalize why I felt that I wanted to do a series on these substances, I'll try to avoid drugs. It seemed that drugs per se seem to be used as a method of going up and away or down and out, and that what we're talking about are drugs that make you go inward in order to come back out and have effect in the world.
Yes.
So it's an entirely different direction that these drugs initiate.
Yes, but the whole experiencing of reality is not a static situation. I don't know is that the right expression. It is a process. It's a process because light is a process that has waves come in and we have the experience. That is just a process, nothing static, and it is important to realize this. And therefore also it is true what Huxley said. If we maybe that we not have the need to repeat all too often this experience. I myself had taken it the last time in '72, and I have the feeling that I am now I'm able to experience this deeper reality without the message. I got the message and I know the message, and I don't need that it be uninterrupted, repeated to me. I got it, and I have it.
I believe you. How about all of you? I'm going to select Henry Wolf, who is a musician par excellence on the Tibetan bells, and knowing the history, it comes out of your substance.
Well, I want to know this. But Dr. Hofmann, I wanted to ask you, I don't want to relate to you another LSD story. I'm sure you've heard millions by now. I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of what comes next. Do you feel that LSD is, with LSD, you've reached a kind of perfection, and there's no other variation to be attempted? I mean, you're satisfied with LSD. This is it, or does your mind sometimes turn in the direction of thinking, is there yet some other kind of substance which will point to some other space equally remarkable and yet beyond LSD?
We have prepared in my laboratory about 100 variations, less acid derivatives. But LSD turned out to be really the most active. The strains that I discovered, just the first I discovered, the first I synthesized was the most active.
Have you heard of MDA?
Yes.
Have you tried it?
No.
It's in California.
Yes, I know about all the story, and I know the pharmacology and all the publications about it, and they were short lasting. Short lasting, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What I'm suggesting by bringing up NDA is that here's another thing, which is obviously related to LSD. I don't think it's not competition, but it's got a particular effect which is a different, also elegance. There's something in NDA which you don't find in LSD, and it's very valid too. So I'm thinking about, what's next?
I don't know. Maybe that's when you find even more enlightening. It is Dr. Alexander Shulgin who has prepared several of these compounds related to mescaline and amphetamine. Chemically seen, it is not a mixture. It is a combination of the molecular structure of amphetamine and mescaline. And he has found many very interesting compounds. And he told me, I saw him in Santa Barbara, that he have a compound who is not so overwhelming, but produces more and has more a euphoriant effect, just to feel you better, you feel stimulated, to feel open, but not so deeply going as LSD. And that could be used more better as a recreational drug, maybe.
Well, I don't want to monopolize your time, but you see, if we are to believe the story, you stumbled on LSD. You discovered LSD. Yeah. A monumental discovery. I mean, I personally date the world before that. That's my way of thinking. But a monumental discovery. Why isn't there, 50 years ago, no one knew about it, but why isn't there something else people focus on, people value, why shouldn't there be? Why shouldn't there be? I mean, have you ever been restless? Have you ever thought that maybe there's some other thing which is equally important, or on the same level, which awaits your discovery too?
I think similar substances have been used thousands of years, and we have studied with a professor of Harvard and with my friend Gordon Wasson the problem of the active agent used in the old Greek histories and their uses, it was known that they played an important role. The whole spiritual world of antique spiritual world in the Greek and Roman time for more than 1,000 years was deeply influenced. It was the spiritual center of the antique world, Eleusis. It was a temple of Demeter, the goddess of the grain. And always one knew from all the descriptions that the people who were initiated there had to undergo a long preparation period. And in the final stage, in the last stage in the telesteion, they got the drink, the kaikion, and then they had the illumination. And it was evident because at the same time, hundreds of people were gathered and had at the same time had the revelation. And seeing the goddess, seeing Persephone, seeing Demeter. And had experiences which she were not allowed to speak about, or the mystery, it was secret, and she could only speak about the influence that it had on their lives. And we have from Cicero, we have from Plato, we have from many of the old personalities of antiquity. We have testimonies that they now have had an insight into deeper reality in the reality which is behind death and birth. Very touching testimonies. And there was always a problem, what was really the agent that may have been used. And my friends from Harvard asked me, would it have been possible that the Greeks at that time had access to something like LSD, or would they have been able to extract an agent, something like LSD, from ergot? The first question had to be clear if there was ergot in any way accessible at that time. Ergot of rye was not accessible because rye was not used. But other cereals were used, and that is it is that in English barley. Barley was used. Barley was the grain of antiquity, and the goddess of cereal was Demeter. It was the goddess of barley, of a grain, and there were, one could speculate, is there any possibility that they had an ergot from barley, and or some wild grasses. And indeed, in the Mediterranean basin there exists, we have analyzed all these different, various grains from all over the world, all ergot all over the world, many grasses and grain. And there, in the Mediterranean basin, there grows an ergot on special wild grasses, which also grows in the fields where barley grows, and this ergot contains exactly the same alkaloids as oleuroquin, exactly the same. Namely lysergic acid amide, lysergic hydroxyamide, not LSD, but similar. And therefore it seems it was very easy at that time for the priests who had the secret knowledge of the potion of the kykeon, that just to collect the grain from these wild ergot and grind it, put it in the kykeon, and they had it. And that is the content of my book I published, The Road to Eleusis, with my friend Gordon Wasson and Professor Röck from Harvard. And it seems possible that really something like was used, something like LSD, not LSD itself, but something like was used already 2,000-3,000 years ago.
That's interesting because a priest would know the quantity of ergot to use.
Yes,
and it has caused havoc.
This function as priest of Eleusis was in the family. The secret was in the family for generations and generations and generations, and it was a top secret.
There's too much. Could be
yes.
Very deadly.
Yes.
Well, let's start.
Nobody's mentioned the pineal analog, pineal hormone, which is chemically very similar to LSD and psilocybin, DMT, the Harmala alkaloids are isomers of the pineal hormone.
It is an indole derivative also, but not so closely related as the relationship between LSD and psilocybin and dimethyltryptamine is not so closely related. It is also an indole derivative.
Yes.
But whatever that means in this.
Apparently, one hypothesis that has been put forward is the idea that there are neurotransmitter substitutes, that they substitute for serotonin and have a greater electron donating capacity. Now, the highest occupied molecular orbital of the various psychedelic substances have been calculated and computer correlated with minimum dosage requirement, and a one-to-one correspondence has been observed, which would indicate that there are sort of ferryboats that shuttle electrons between synapses, and the psychedelic agents therefore lower the threshold of the receptivity of stimuli, being ferryboats that can carry larger amounts of electrons and substitute for other ferryboats.
Yeah, that is a kind of scientific explanation. But what is the relation between a chemical or physical reaction and the spiritual experience? That is a gap you can never control. And this kind of work I follow, but I know it is not. That's what I mean, because LSD has a structure which allows the same composition, the same chemical structure, but only in the steric arrangement of the atom can be different. And for isomers, we call it isomers. It's the same relation between the left and right hand. Isomers. They have the same composition, but they are different. And I prepared all 5 isomers, and only one has this effect, but all the rest have the same electronic charges and this electronic configuration, and don't work.
Could this have something to do with the enantiomorphic function of the left and right field of the body? And perhaps a rotational effect in the self-organizing field of the DNA?
Maybe. It's all speculation. Very interesting for subjects for scientific research. But the main point is what happens really that you have a chemical reaction in the brain from LSD. LSD. We know that it is fixed in the hypothalamus. I think I mentioned this before. We labeled it with carbon 14. It is fixed there, and there is a chemical reaction. You have a chemical reaction, something quite materialistic, and then you have a psychic experience. Where is connection?
Well, I think your fairy will become Siddhartha's fairy.
It is so. It is so. We know we need our brain. We need our antenna. We have is a chemical basis of our spirituality.
The connection is the main thrust of this. You might want to take that with you and look at it.
Yes.
It's a little abstract.
But it is just to may accept that we are at the same time spiritual beings, and also we have a bodily existence. And with our bodily existence, that maybe the existence before we have been born, and we go back in this existence where we don't know more our body. But as long as we are experiencing the reality, as we say, it's our reality here, now, then we need our body. As soon as you have some interest in your brain, I think the reality will change, or no more exist, what we call reality.
Great. There are two observations I really would like to make, and the first one has to do with the exchange that started between the Tibetan boy and the woman, and that is that after this experience, there's frequently this feeling, well, what should I do or what should I change? And it seems, from my own experiences, that acceptance of the yin and yang making of the whole are probably the biggest thing that I've been able to bring back. So when people have had a very moving experience and they're trying to change the world to what's considered right, personally, it seems to me that considering that yin and yang is good and bad, make up the whole and it's all to be appreciated. The second thing is the word drug. I think the reason there's such a problem with the word drug is, particularly in government, is the connotation comes from a moral basis rather than rational. Obviously, a psychedelic doesn't make you necessarily poor. For me, has on occasion been blissful and on occasion been jarring, but it's always been appreciated. And I think part of the difficulty in labeling and well, it's just simply not very accurate to label a psychedelic drug for me because the connotations are much too moral as opposed to rational. And I think that's one of the reasons in this culture, as opposed to less civilized cultures, we have such a high abstract sense of morality that this type of substance is viewed with fear as a goal, as I've said.
Yes, I agree.
It seems as though that's one of the reasons for the re-emergence of Taoism, that it has that yin yang quality and cycle of acceptance of neither being good nor bad, of coexistence. That's true.
Yeah, Doctor, in your writings you mentioned that when you were in Mexico, you tried to figure out what exactly the meaning of Star Maria Pastora was, and weren't able to. Now, I was very curious, about all these years. If any further work was ever done with that?
No. It seems that the active principle is very easily destroyed because only the fresh juice of this mint. We discovered a new species of the mint, Salvia divinorum, was coined on this expedition, and we had the possibility to have a session with a curandero who used this juice I described in my book, wonderful experience. He prepared the fresh juice for the leaf. And I collected then a large quantity of this juice in Mexico and diluted it with alcohol, do a preservation, and analyzed it in Basel, and I did not find anything. I tested it and did no more work. It seems that this is very easy to destroy, and would not be worthwhile to do some research. They have no more possibility.
that could be kind of
But then go, yeah, to go to next year.
Guess we better do a little hopping.
I was told a very interesting story about a year ago, reportedly reliable sources, informed sources, and it seems that the CIA in the early 50s apparently did a great deal of research into LSD.
Yes.
And there was a faction that emerged recognizing that most of the people in the CIA that took LSD suddenly realized that the work that they were doing wasn't very nice. And they basically rejected the scenario of the CIA in that approach. And there emerged during the 50s about a half dozen major scenarios where they felt the future of the world was going to go. And I believe this was sort of summarized in SRI reports in 1961, Stanford Research Institute. And one of those reports or directions was the idea that they, in later years, emphasized around the idea of voluntary simplicity, or that the giving up of the complexity of our civilization, the pressure of differentiation and so forth, would lead to a viable future living closer in harmony with the earth and so forth, as opposed to what seems to be the major scenario still developing on the planet today, more along the lines of the military, police state sort of thing, with a great deal of damage to the environment and so forth. So that apparently a faction, so the story goes, the CIA began to move in the direction of popularizing LSD to bring about the first scenario that I outlined. And so I think that also I'm just in the sort of, well, I don't know if there's any connection or not, but there was, I understand, a lot of CIA interaction with Harvard University in the 50s, and that's where the Albert Hofmann guy came out. So it's an interesting point to think about. And then I guess I just sort of wanted to add sort of slightly different subject, but later on in 1966, the mafia reportedly began to interject in the manufacture of LSD amphetamine, and which essentially destroyed in a large part of the black market LSD this transformative aspect. And I wonder if you might comment on what you're referring to before, is the degradation of most black market LSD, and what kind of effects do these degraded drugs, what percentage-wise would you say people will have a transformative effect as a result of that degradation? Because it really does seem to me that, like, I can think of small rural towns in Northern California where high school students during the 70s have been taking LSD, and they have not had this transformative impact predominantly. And perhaps, I mean, if this transformative aspect is going to come about again, certainly from my own experience, after 1965, I did not find that the LSD experience really had the same kind of effect. I don't think I had any defined proof of pure LSD sensation, or even probably wasn't then. The difference has been significant.
The degradation products are inactive. That what happens when LSD is degraded by oxygen or by light, it inactivated but no more any effect. But as I told you, many other substances were added or were sold, labeled as LSD, which are not at all LSD. Amphetamine is one of it, and also strychnine and other stimulants. Therefore, it is difficult to say what happened if you say that at that time we had other experience that played. Maybe we have not the right LSD, something other in hand. But about this whole story with the IE, I don't know. But a book will come out, or has just come out, about the whole story, that the man has investigated this And he also visited me and asked me all I knew about this story with CIA. I had not contact with CIA, but I had contact with military laboratory. Men from the army visited us and found us very interested how, if we had a procedure for the production of larger ton quantities of lysergic acid.
What was your
And
answer?
we had we had just to grow our ergot on the fields and then degrade these alkaloids to lysergic acid and make the photosynthesis, and that is not a procedure which we can use for the production of tons. So
What's the name of this book you just mentioned?
I don't know exactly, but I think it must come out now. That is the name of
It's called the Search for
Mark.
the Manchurian Candidate.
Seriously?
Marx. It's the name of Mark or something, Mark something like
Came out about 2 years ago.
something.
Search for the Manchurian Candidate.
All these interrelations with CIA and the LSD, that was that cleared up. It was a very strange thing. I'm not very interested in this thing. Politics.
I'm intimidated by the proximity. Move down to the front, please.
You talk very a lot about the transforming effects of LSD in the literature and in underground usage. Many comparisons are made to psilocybin and LSD, some saying that, quote, reasonably high doses, unquote, the effects are very similar. Would you care to comment on that, since I know from an article that I read by you that your first experiences on psilocybin were not anywhere the same as what you reported in your first experience with LSD?
Well, at least my first experience with psilocybin when I took the mushrooms, not the psilocybin, it was a very strange experience because I had an experience to be in Mexico and to see all. I knew I was at home in my home, but all had changed and had acquired a Mexican expression. Everything I knew, and I thought you have taken now a Mexican drug. You know, it comes from Mexico, these mushrooms, and you just see it. And I tried to see it as it normally saw it, and it was not possible. Just a Mexican aspect. And even I had a colleague of mine who were asked me to control, because the first experiment is with mushrooms. To control the experiment, it seemed to me to be an Aztec priest. When he came to check my blood pressure, I had to he would come and open my arrest, and so it was just a very strange thing. Very strange. And there is a theory that the Mexican art is influenced by these visions you have, specifically with psilocybin and with psilocybin.
I found the vision to be very, very specific to psilocybin. It's very hard to say specific things. How to help it.
There's people there that they don't find any difference. I have the feeling, for me, that with psilocybin I had more, not so much color, not so more light was in it. It was a darker experience, that with the mushrooms than with LSD.
Jonathan, either? I just want to check on this. Jonathan?
No.
It is now 17 after 10. I know that Dr. Hoffman has a rigorous schedule. How much more time can you want?
Maybe till 10:30.
All right,
How much?
you agree?
How much? Jonathan, how much did you give?
Another 13 minutes. So can we keep the questions brief so that each of you can ask? And we'll go to the back, I think, first, all the way back.
Thank you. Dr. Hoffman, I'm interested in the research with chemicals such as LSD in relationship to mental disorders. Have in your opinion, have they proven that mental disorders are chemical problems? Do you think research in this field is going to improve, or is there progress in research as to psychosis or schizophrenia, things like that?
No, at the beginning when LSD was discovered, the hypothesis that schizophrenia and other mental disorders could have been caused by a wrong metabolism, and that some indole compounds which we have in our metabolism, tryptophan and so, could produce then LSD-like or psilocybin-like compounds, and that would be the reason then for these mental disorders. At that time, there exist two theories that the schizophrenia is a purely psychic disease, or it is a disease, a somatic disease, it has a chemical basis. And because LSD works in so minute quantities, it would have been possible that one had never discovered an agent, a chemical agent, which had caused these substances as mental illnesses until now, because just the substance where the quantity was too minute. And there were a lot of research to find in the blood and in the liquor of schizophrenics to find some indolic compounds. But the results were not conclusive, and finally the research was dropped.
Let's work our way forward. Right here. Back. Here, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Very own you. No one behind you.
Hydrogen is a LSD-like lysergic acid cousin relative. It's being used for Alzheimer's disease. I wonder if you can comment on that. Sandoz produces it. Hydrogen. Are you familiar with it?
Oh, I am the father of hydrogen also. Really? That was not a problem child. That grew up very quite normal, and it's a good, the best product of Sandoz. It's the most important product. It is also a lysergic derivative, but it is much more complicated structure. It is not lysergic acid has been hydrogenated. Hydrogen has been introduced into lysergic molecule, and that gave them. Then all these hallucinogenic activity disappears, and quite other qualities come out, and what came out when I made these compounds, we found in our pharmacology experiment that it had a blood pressure reducing activity. And we introduced it, put it on the market as against high blood pressure. And it was not very effective, and at the same time other companies brought out this Ravolti outputs, which were much more effective, and we tried to withdraw from the market hydrogen. And then the physicians who had used these medicaments said, no, we don't withdraw it. We have observed that elderly patients who used it, the blood pressure was not very much in influence, but these people felt better. They her memory became better, and they felt better, and she could sleep again. And then the research of this compound was put on other aspects, and it was found out that hydrogen improves the functions of the metabolism of the nerve cells in the brain. And it is now the most important agent against aging problems. That comes out of my laboratory.
You seem to have none. You seem to have no aging problem.
I had in reserve. I use it not yet, but maybe. when other people tell to me that now it's time for you to take hydrogen, then I say,
well, let's. I think, was it a couple of years ago you gave a talk in Mexico City? Are you going to be giving talks in California or the U.S. or in Mexico in the future? Is this your last visit to there?
No, I go to Seattle then. Next Seattle, I shall do the next.
Will you be back with us?
From Seattle, I go to Boston at home then to visit my friend there. It's Boston, the man who made the research, the mushrooms, and he's not. He's bad condition. He's ill, and I would like to see him visit and go back to his home.
Oh, we'll make this your second home.
A very short question. You say that you no longer take LSD because you've gotten the message and now you know what it is. Can you explain to me more? What is it?
Yes, I think we have spoken about this. What I explained was that it is that you are able to loosen this IU barrier and the subject-object barrier, that you really realize, not only rationalize, but experience emotionally that you are not just an encapsulated ego, that you are a part of the universe, a part of the creation. And that is a deeper meaning, I think, of the experience, as far as you can put it in words. You cannot put it in words, it is a feeling of, you have no words for it. But finally, what you can say and rationalize is that loosening of the egoistic, materialistic aspect of the world, which consists in the here I am, there are the others, that you have the feeling to belong to the universe. But I must not be repeated for me. I have it so strongly that I don't need to repeat what I mean.
I need to deflate some misinformation. Between early 1972 and mid-1973, I kept as close track as could be kept of quantitative and qualitative analysis of LSD on the street. And let's face it, none of us has any connections other than the street, no matter how close you are to the dealer. It's still not quality controlled with what kind of rigor that a drug manufacturer would have to apply to get a license to sell over the counter or by prescription. There was no serious amount of contamination of LSD with anything but isomers of LSD, which were believed by the analyzing laboratories to be chemically inactive. However, and this goes back to the question that was raised about why people were not getting profound spiritual experiences. If I understood you correctly, you're talking in terms of a 500 to 1,000 microgram dose, right? The average LSD tablet on the street runs 50 micrograms and ranges from 25 to 75. If you can get water or gelatin, you get somewhere around 100 micrograms. Only once in all the analyses that I looked at over that year and a half or so was there a tablet of LSD that was available that was over 200 micrograms. And people are walking around taking 50 mics at a time, claiming they're getting 500 mic trips, because once you're up there, you can't count anymore.
With an ampule from Sandoz that was made 23 years ago, but the LSD was still in the nitrogen, would that be effective?
Still, yes. But this contains 100 micrograms.
And it was kept dark and it was not exposed to light.
Yeah,
This day it was
yeah,
safe.
absolutely. I have analyzed more than 50 years old. More than 50.
See you later.
More than 50 years old ampules, it is 100% still.
How many hundreds of years would that last?
An eternity, Barry. How many hundreds of years would it last?
I think forever. Forever. If protected from light and oxygen, it is absolutely stable.
Have they stopped producing it completely?
No, I am no more thunder, but I found other gives the LSD which is available here in the United States by for research for people who can submit in the research plan and get a license to work with it. It stems from Sandoz. The NIH, which distributes LSD for research here in the country, gets the LSD from Sandoz.
We're going to schedule, we have a time frame. Gosh, I want another one.
Yeah.
There have been several comments this evening about the lack of spiritual transformation in many trips recently. I've always felt very fortunate in that regard, and I would be interested in your comments about the importance of mindset and attitude and point of view in terms of the spiritual rather than the spiritual.
You mean I should give you advice how the expectation should be, or what the preparation could be?
Comments from your own experience in terms of what's been helpful and something
For me, it's very, very helpful if I am in contact with and touch nature. Living with a living environment, that is very important, because always what man does will someday will disappear. But every grass, every flower, every tree is eternal, and that's the radiation and of living organism on you. It means that if you go in the forest or you go in the seaside or something and touch nature, that is the best environment. And meditate on this, being open for the beauty of touch nature. That is the best preparation.
So it's an atmosphere of rebirth that you're going to, of death and rebirth. Nature always encapsulates that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a parallel process to the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, by the door.
Do you know, Dr. Hofmann, any vitamins or nutrients or food or diet besides fasting that would enhance or help the experience?
I could say that, just that caffeine is not, if you drink a lot of coffee before you start an LSD experience, that is not good. But I think not to eat too much, and rather food which contains carbohydrates is better than. But that is the Indians use chocolate, or that is chocolate in their ceremonies, to drink chocolate before.